What's up, everybody? It's Raheem Joseph. So, in the news of MMA, first and foremost, Jon Jones has passed his post UFC 232 test. So, clap it up for him real quick. And before we start saying he's fully clean, let's talk about it. Now, Kenny K.O, he is a fitness YouTuber. Well, he mostly comments on things in the fitness industry, bodybuilding, things of that nature. And he's had some experience, with performance enhancing drugs, because that's obviously a big thing in that world. So he talks about what Turinabol does, which is the substance that Jon Jones tests positive for in the past. He talks about what it does and what it could have, possibly done for Jon Jones in his fights. And before I continue, the title's a little clickbaity. He didn't really call out Jon Jones. He was just talking about what Turinabol can do for Jon Jones, but my bad. So yeah, let's hear what he had to say.
Jon Jones tested positive for Turinabol or T-ball, which is a very popular anabolic in the sports performance world because it increases strength, increases speed, and gives overall body performance without adding much weight. Now, that key factor I just mentioned, not adding much weight, this is why the drug is perfect for the UFC, because as many of you know, in weigh-ins you have to reach a certain weight class, and you don't want to be taking these certain bulking compounds that are going to add 20-30 pounds of muscle. You want something that's going to make you quicker, faster, stronger, while also keeping you at the same body weight. T-ball has an extremely short half-life, and I'm talking incredibly short. This is yet again another reason why many UFC fighters and professional athletes turn to this compound.
Now, I find this very interesting because as someone who's also into weightlifting and becoming a personal trainer, a lot of people think that steroids only make you bigger. Well, they make you stronger, but they only make you bigger, more muscle mass, things of that nature. But anybody at any size can be on steroids. There's different steroids, different things. So for me, like he said, the key was that Turinabol increased speed and strength without adding weight, which is obviously perfect because Jon Jones has to make 205, so you can't really pack on a bunch of extra muscle, but he can get the benefits of extra speed, extra strength in a fight. And that, when you're at the top level, little things like that make a difference. So now you know what it can do, and now that it's in his system, it makes you wonder, is he really ingesting this by accident?
One thing I want to make loud and clear to all the fans is that it gives me absolutely zero performance enhancing benefits, and I'm excited to have so many people looking into this situation, and eventually, like I said, my innocence will be proven.
Wait, what? It gives you zero performance enhancing benefit? If you guys just look at T-ball as a compound, it has extraordinary benefits. Like I mentioned, for the professional sports world, it's probably one of the best things you can possibly take.
What's also interesting is that they say he had trace amounts this time, but they also said last time he had trace amounts. And obviously I don't know about steroids, I don't claim to, but it just seems interesting that he has metabolites stuck in his body from what was supposed to be a small amount from a tainted supplement in the first place. So I don't know how much it takes for it to be stuck in your system, whether it's one time use or how much of it you need to do. But it is interesting knowing what Turinabol does and seeing that that's what's found in Jon Jones. Another popular YouTube channel, his name is MixedMollyWhoopery. He's hilarious, but he also makes really good content about MMA, and I really think you guys should check him out. And he talks about some of the things about the Jon Jones defense that sounds really iffy, and what could add up and what could not add up, and why. and he called it the Pringles defense, and I just thought his take was really interesting. And so I'm gonna show something that he talked about and what he said.
So going back to Jon's last failed tests, Jon passed 2 tests on the 7th and 8th of July 2017, but then failed the test on the 28th of July for 20 to 60 picograms of a long-term metabolite of oral turinabol. The fact that Jon passed the 2 tests on the 7th and 8th, but failed the test on the 28th, would appear to suggest he ingested the steroid in the interim. But oral turinabol produces short-term, medium-term, and long-term metabolites. The medium-term metabolites tend to stay in the system for at least 22 days. So that is the first assumption Jeff makes. The medium-term metabolites of oral turinabol stay in the system for at least 22 days.
And he says these metabolites, based on his study, will stay in the body at least 22 days.
So because these tests were less than 22 days apart, if he took it in the interim, you'd expect to find medium-term and potentially short-term metabolites in his system. The absence of those metabolites seemed to vindicate Jones and made way for an argument revolving around pulsing. The idea that at that type of low levels, the long-term metabolites may fluctuate and even disappear only to re-emerge on later tests. That is the second assumption Jeff makes. The M3 metabolites exhibit a pulsing effect.
Here he lays out, the argument for Jon Jones that it's a mistake and that it's just like a residual effect. He then talks about how this could make sense in theory, but then he lays out sort of the problems that come up when you use this defense.
On the 9th of December, Jon tests positive for between 60 and 80 picograms of M3. Nevada were informed of the irregularities. Over the holidays, they couldn't commit to accommodate in the UFC, and so the event was moved to California, where the Athletic Commission were more familiar with the details of his case. After examining the scientific literature on his substance and the extensive testing history on Jones, and consulting with leading scientific experts, USADA has concluded that the extremely low level of DHCMT in Mr. Jones' December 9, 2018 sample is consistent with residual amounts from his prior exposure, for which he was previously sanctioned. One thing worth noting here is that between Jones' last clean test on November 14 and the recent failed test on the 9th of December is 25 days. So Jeff's 22-day window, it doesn't even apply here.
At least 22 days.
But despite that, if all of these assumptions were rock solid, I would actually agree with the ruling. Jeff would have outlined a very hard case to argue against. So let's take a look at those assumptions. The first is that the medium-term metabolites stay in the system for at least 22 days. On the podcast, Jeff cites a study from Grigory Rodchenkov.
Again, going back to Icarus, remember the doctor? I mean, he's the main character in that, Rodchenkov.
But the Rodchenkov study is actually citing a prior study from a German university. This study found medium-term metabolites were present 22 days after a single 5 milligram dose of oral turinabol. That's where the 22-day window comes from. The major thing here, though, is that the sample size of the study was one individual. So, to take the results of a single individual and project that over an entire population of the USADA testing pool, that doesn't sound very scientific. The most important question that a researcher should ask when planning a study is how large a sample do I need? If the sample size is too small, even a well-conducted study may fail to answer its research question, may fail to detect important effects or associations, or may estimate those effects or associations too imprecisely.
Now, I found this very interesting because that sample size is crazy, that it's all based off one person. But the second thing, and this is the last thing I think I'll show from him, I don't want you to get the whole video here, please watch his video. But the second thing he says, actually, I thought was pretty crazy.
The second assumption is that the M3 metabolite exhibits a pulsing effect. This is again based on a single study, but this time for a different substance. A study of oral clomiphene showed evidence of a metabolite pulsing for up to a period of 261 days, which is when the test ended. Jeff feels like it's fair to compare the oral clomiphene results with oral turinabol based on the fact that they both have a chlorine molecule. And it may very well be, obviously I have no idea. But still, there's no research directly backing up the pulsing claim on the metabolite in question.
So like he said, now we see that they're just basing the pulsing effect based off on another drug because they have similarities, which to me, I mean, like he said, it could be true, but at the same time, I don't really think that that's like solid, because there are many chemicals and many things that share certain properties but do completely different things. So I just don't see how that can be a rock solid definitive defense for why Jon Jones still has these things in the system. So to me, we have, you know, facts about what Turinabol actually does as far as helping you out, but we don't have solid facts about what, like how long it could be in him, why it would still be pulsing, and things like that. Now, there's also controversy about Turinabol itself and how well it helps you, and MixedMollyWhoopery talks MixedMollyWhoopery talks about that in the rest of this video. So like I said, go check him out. But I just thought this was an interesting thing to discuss because Jon Jones just passed all his post UFC 232 tests. And in my personal opinion, I just think that he either was cheating and is it now, or still is cheating. I think for you to think that he has done nothing at all is pretty stupid at this point. He clearly has. It's just whether he's still doing it or not and how long it's gonna keep going. So we'll see how that goes. But I just, you know, I thought it was an interesting topic, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.